Hello, princesses, and welcome back to Not Fit for Print Beauty with me, Rebecca. Today we are here to finally talk about some complexion products, and we're going to start with concealers. There have been, I know because I counted, 13 notable high-profile concealer releases in the past 6 months. So if I have bought a concealer in the past 6 months, we are going to look at it here. We're going to compare it to all the others. We're going to look at the price, the longevity, the thickness of it. I'm going to rate them from thinnest consistency to thickest, but we'll also talk about the coverage, how they last, like I said, what they cost, even their packaging. We're going to compare one to another, all 13 of them. So I'm super glad to have you guys here, and don't forget that you can also visit and come say hello over on TikTok, Instagram, and on Threads. Okay, let's get started. I am not going to include favorites from years past or seasons past, or really frankly, even anything 6 months or more, past 6 months, because it's just going to get too confusing. Let's look at these frankly new releases, and I put new in scare quotes because they're not necessarily new. It's 6 months, but that's new enough, and a lot of people are still trying to decide which one to get. Okay, I am going to swatch them. What I have done is I've painstakingly gone through all of the video reviews that I have done on these 13 concealers, and down below me in the description bar, not only will you find a link to all of the reviews on them and shopping links, you'll also see that I included a link to our membership if you would like to join and become a member of this channel. We have weekly membership only lives, and they get really gossipy and fun. It's $4.99 a month, but that's down there along with all of the bigger, larger reviews and wear tests for these. I would like to try them on all here for you, but I don't know how we compare 13 concealers. I'll do arm swatches because it's fun. Some of these I got the wrong shades of, so I'd rather discuss rather than shade. I mean, you got to get the right shade, but I'd rather discuss performance, longevity, and viscosity. I do this. You see, I found in my years as a magazine beauty editor, I found that the best way to make sure that someone's going to like a concealer is if they like the consistency of it. People who like really thick concealers will not enjoy a kind of a viscous or watery concealer. They just won't like the texture. Someone like me, I can't do the real thick ones. Remember, like Pat McGrath released a real thick one a while ago? I don't like it. I don't know the meaning of restraint, and it cakes and it's too thick. I can't just dot it on. KVD, Good Apple's the same way. The original Shape Tape and the Shape Tape Creamy, same. I like a little bit of a thinner, I like full coverage, don't get me wrong, but I like a little bit of a thinner feel to it. Kind of like I always reference the Armani Power fabric, and that's kind of what I see. And I put things on a concealer spectrum somewhere in the middle of that. Most of the concealers, in fact, I would pretty much say all of them today, except for a few, but I'll expand on that, would fit into somewhere in the middle of that really, really heavy Pat McGrath or that much, much, much thinner Armani Power fabric. So they'll be in the middle, but I'm still going to put them on the concealer spectrum so that you know what gets closer to the thickest and what gets closer to the thinnest. And we'll talk about coverage, we'll talk about price and shade availability. We are pretty busy here, so let's go ahead and get started. I will swatch these because it's fun. I'm not really sure that you can exactly tell how thick they are looking at them on my arm, but it's kind of fun to see, right? And it's a makeup video, so we tend to swatch. But the information we're going to talk about, I think, is more important. All right, let's talk about first. I set some parameters here. I do have under eye brighteners here that have been released in the past 6 months, but I left out color correctors. Though that is a type of concealer, I thought it got too confusing. If you'd like me to do a color corrector video, please note that below in comments so that I know, which way to go with that, because color, they could be their own video. They really could. But under eye brightener is kind of like a concealer, and I tend to use those all over the face. All of these 13, I do use all over the face, and not just in the worst part. I have, it's so deep here, and I like to call those my dark pits of despair, which comes complete with its own theme song. All right, let's get started. The first thing I want to look at is 4 that we're going to kind of take off our 13, top of our 13 to begin with. 2 of them are the Valentino, Very Valentino concealer. I'll tell you why I'm taking that off. And the Huda Glowish Bright Light Hydrating Sheer Concealer. In the Very Valentino, it is noted below in the description bar, but I bought LN4. And in Huda, I bought this Huda Glowish, I bought the 03 Light. But the Huda comes in 15 shades and is $27. And the Valentino comes in 20 shades and is $35 because it's Valentino, therefore it can have a higher price range. These are concealers, but they're not really. I'll tell you what these are for. Let me show you them on my arm, and let me tell you what they're really for. I don't really count them. They are concealers. I gotta make room here. So I don't know if you can see. I just put that on my arm, and you can actually see my arm through it. I don't even know if you can see. I will take it outside in the warm California sunshine in a bit, and you'll see it then. What these do best, this Huda and this Valentino, and these are new, these have been released in the past 6 months. They're so thin that you can actually see my arm right through them. And what those are good for, I think personally, is if you have a green or an orange color corrector that you don't want to add any more thickness to, and there's some good color correctors out there. These are really nice to add that super thin layer and disguise it. Unless you're 15, however, it's not going to do too much to cover. And if you are 15, you might need it to cover a blemish. It's not going to do that. These are paper thin. You probably can't even see them on my arm, but I did want to show them to you. I prefer the Huda of the Super Light. I really prefer the Huda. By the way, at the end here, we are going to go through my favorites. I will tell you that. But of these two, I prefer the Huda. I don't rate the Valentino very highly. Why? It's scented. It's scented. And I know you're like, so what, Rebecca? A lot of products you review are scented. Underneath your eyes? No, I don't like it at all. The other two I'm going to take off right from the top are our NARS Light Reflecting Brightener and the Glossier Stretch Balm Concealer. These are potted concealers. People always ask me if they can hold a candle to the insanely expensive $95 Chanel Sublimage. No, the Chanel Sublimage is excellent. It's just too darn expensive. So let's take a look at these two that have been released in the last 6 months. The NARS Light Reflecting Brightener, I bought in the shade Golden Eye. It only comes in 5 shades. It's $34. I don't think it does enough. NARS has a concealer that they released in, I'm going to put this on using a brush here. NARS has a concealer that they released years ago with a wand, and I like it a lot better. There's nothing wrong with this. It's essentially a concealer, but it is a potted format. So, and then Glossier Stretch Balm Concealer. I got it in shade Light 2, way too light. But this one comes in 32 shades and is $22, much more affordable. This actually is, don't think I got it wrong, this is not a new product. Here's the Glossier. You can see how much lighter it is. This is not a new product at all, but it was kind of revamped, refreshed, and zhuzhed up so that it could match the release of the new Glossier Stretch Foundation. But this is a favorite of a lot of people. It just depends if you want to put a brush or a finger into a pot. I don't love it. I don't frankly love that about the Sublimage, but if you're desperate for a good potted concealer and you have an extra $95 laying around, does anyone? This is a good one. Okay. Now those 4 are on my arm, and I will take this arm outside and show you. But so we have 2 potted concealers and we have 2 extraordinarily thin. Look at that. I don't even know if you guys can see the Valentino anymore. It's gone. I mean, it's barely there. It's just a hint. Now, let's start in on the more traditional concealers where, if you really got some dark pits of despair to cover and you really got some blemishes and things, you're really going to dig in, okay? Even those 4 that we just looked at, though, were released in the past 6 months. Okay, I'm going to start with, we're going to talk about them, and I'm going to go on a scale of, with these traditional concealers, thinnest to thickest, okay? So our thinnest brand new concealer is by Surratt Beauty. This is the Dewdrop Concealer. I got it in shade 3 and shade 4, but it comes in 10 shades and it's $48. Surratt is not cheap. This one comes to accompany the Dewdrop Foundation, which, if you didn't know, is my favorite foundation probably ever made. And by the way, do note down below, I do have a code to save you money at Surratt. So if you're going to buy something, you use my code and my down below just so you can save some money. Okay, the Surratt has a nice little interesting application tip. Rather than a doe foot, you are going to squeeze it up and put it on. Now, the interesting thing about this one is this shade is way too light, so forgive me. Now already you can see, look over here. Is that Huda and that Valentino that you can't even see. Now we're actually getting some coverage. And yet this is the lightest formula of all of them that we are going to look at today. This one is great with the Dewdrop foundation. In fact, I have to tell you guys, I find that I'm really enjoying using the concealer with the matching foundation. I think they formulate together and they do really well with most brands. Now I know not everybody has both. It's not cost effective too, but if you do and you want to wear them together, I think that is ideal. I really do. Okay, now let's take a look at the second. What do you guys think the second thinnest is? So Surratt is definitely the thinnest. It lays very flat on the face and you can barely tell you have it on, but it does give a nice amount of coverage. That's way too light of a shade, but as you can see, it really disguises my arm. On these, you can see my arm straight through it. So our coverage is really nice, but it's super, super paper thin. Okay, the next up in line is the Gucci concealer. The Gucci concealer definitely wins the prize for our prettiest. When you pull this out of your bag, you look great doing so. I bought it in two shades, 24N and 25N, but it does come in 40 shades and is $47. I do like to put this with the most recent Gucci Serum foundation. I think they're beautiful together. This is about as thin as the Surratt, but I said that the Surratt was a little bit thinner. And in thinness, I'm talking about the feel of the concealer and not the coverage, because this is a really nice coverage, just a really thin application so you can build it. The other good thing about the Gucci, as I will show you with this shade here, with this Gucci, I'm looking at 24N, has a nice kind of peachiness to it, which I like because, as you can see, it's about the same as the Surratt, really. They're almost tied. I like that peachiness because you can use it in place of a color corrector. I like to use a peach color corrector, and I have found that Gucci's kind of nice, and then I can even put my other shade over it if I want. You can experiment, and that's really nice. So I like the Gucci. The Gucci promises to be really hydrating. I don't think it is. I think the Gucci and the Surratt are very flat, very natural. They're not drying. I don't find them hydrating though. I know they say, you have to be careful. It's like every foundation says that it's smoothing. They aren't all. Every concealer is going to tell you that it conceals everything. It's a concealer. Doesn't mean it always does. Okay, moving on to our list here, we're going to go now to the Tower 28. The Tower 28 is a smidgen, and by smidgen I'm using the professional term there, a smidgen thicker than the Gucci. The Tower 28 is the Swipe All Over Hydrating Serum. This is much more hydrating than the Gucci and much more hydrating than the Surratt. Not that the Gucci and the Surratt are drying. I'm just saying this is a little bit creamier. I got it in shades 3 and 6, but it comes in 20 shades and is $22. This is a ride or die already for a lot of people. It's really pretty. It comes, with this little purple, and it comes with this flexible doe foot. And you can see here, we are starting, I know the shades are different, we're starting to get a little bit thicker than Gucci. Not by much, but let me tell you guys, I put these on my hand and I held them up, and I even tried Melissa. So we have a member of our membership in our members live. Melissa said, can we put them on a piece of paper and hold the paper up to see how far I tried it, Melissa. It didn't quite work on camera, but it was a great idea. But I have been researching this, and you can kind of see, shade aside, they are starting to get to cover my arm a little bit more. They really are. And I probably could have done that more scientifically. You're going to have to take my word for it. All right, let's move right along to our next up, and one of our creamiest. We have two. We're going to talk about which ones are the creamiest, which ones are the driest. We'll talk about that all at the end. But one of our creamiest is the Natasha Denona Hy-Glam Concealer. I bought the shades N7 and N8, but it comes in 50 shades and is $30. And she also released these with some color correctors. But today we're just looking at concealer. This is a beautiful, creamy, medium coverage concealer. And as you see, we're going to start to cover more. I know I applied a little more, but I was just trying to smooth it on the arm. And again, we're not really looking at shades here. I do trust you to choose the best shade, but you're welcome to ask me below. The Natasha Denona Hy-Glam Concealer is a very pretty concealer, a very typical medium coverage concealer, and not much else. If you love it, great. If you're really looking for something that's going to give amazing coverage, it's kind of run-of-the-mill medium. Okay, moving right along to the next one, and one of my favorites. This is the Makeup by Mario SurrealSkin Awakening Concealer. It comes in 22 shades. I picked up two, shade 200 and 240. It comes in 22 shades and is $29. And I want to show you it here. This also has a flexible doe foot. As you see, it's getting a little thicker. And if my photography skills, you guys, I'm a writer. I'm an editor. I'm not a photographer. If I had photography skills, I would be able to show you that it does lift up, like member Melissa was saying. It does lift up off the skin and show that it is a little bit thicker. I had heard that this Mario concealer was really thick, like Pat McGrath Labs thick. Not at all. It's very workable, very blendable, very pretty, and I think covers really, really well. Now, if you haven't noticed, in between all of these, I am showing you photos from the videos that I've done. I forgot to say that, I should have, but I am throwing in photos from the videos that I have done that will let you see what these all look like on my skin. Okay, so you should be also kind of referring to those as we go. All right, coming up the line, also a very creamy, very, very nice concealer. We have our Tarte Shape Tape Radiant. This is a medium coverage concealer. It comes in 37 shades. I bought shades 29 and 22. Here's 22 actually, and I'll show you that. Now that's starting to get a little bit thicker. Before you go, oh no, not Shape Tape. Yes, this is creamier and starting to get a bit thicker. The original Shape Tape and the Shape Tape Creamy are, to my way of thinking, to be avoided because I like those thinner concealers. If you like the real thick ones like Pat McGrath and stuff, you would love the Shape Tape, the original, and creamy. But let me tell you, the Radiant is much more of a medium. I mean, we're moving along the lines here. It's getting towards thicker, but it's not too thick to work with, and I am very averse to super thick concealers. Now, as you can see from the photos that I am inserting there, they're all pretty much working, aren't they? I mean, I don't know if you're able to tell a favorite. I would love to have tried them on here, but kind of impossible with 13 shades. All right, moving down is one that I have thought of as a bit forgettable, which is terribly unfair of me because so many of you love it. And that is the Makeup Forever HD Skin Smooth and Blur Undetectable Under Eye Concealer. I got one shade in this one, 2.1Y Biscuit, but it comes in 20 shades, not as many as others, and is $29. And it's starting to get a little bit more opaque. A lot of people love this one, and I found no trouble with it, but then kind of immediately forgot about it, which is terribly unfair. Now, I'm not mentioning fragrance here because other than the Valentino and other than smelling a little bit like concealer, we don't have anything floral or weird here other than that Valentino. Okay, continuing on, we have two more, and then we're going to start giving some awards and take this outside into the warm California sunshine. Okay, next up, what have I left out so far, is our next to thickest, but I find it infinitely workable. And when I say next to thickest, we're still in the middle. We're still not over by the Pat McGrath thickest, and we're still not over by the Armani Power Fabric thinnest, okay? We're getting the thickest of our middle, and that is, of course, Haus Labs Triclone Skin Tech Concealer. I got shades 20 LM and 21 LM, that is listed below, but there are 31 shades for $32. I love this one. I'm wearing a little bit of it today for this video. This one has a thicker doe foot and a much thicker presence. It kind of hesitates more. It's towards Pat McGrath Labs, but it's workable. It's infinitely blendable, and I absolutely love it. And we will be talking about it again as we get into some awards here, okay? And our thickest is another one that I'm embarrassed to say, just like the Makeup Forever, that I found a tad bit forgettable. This is the IT Cosmetics Bye Bye Dark Spots Serum Concealer. Be careful about calling yourself Bye Bye Dark Spots, because I want to see no more dark pits of despair, and I'm not sure I did. This isn't a bad concealer, and it's not a great one. Here, it comes in 18 shades. It's $30. I got shade LN22, and it is the thickest of all these mediums, and look at all those different shades. That is the thickest of all those mediums. This one has a bit of a gimmick. It has this top, which has its own little brush, You know, it's tough to clean. It's a nice medium shade concealer. If I were out somewhere and I didn't have any makeup on and you had that in your bag and you tossed it to me, I'd be thrilled for you to toss it to me, but I don't really get it. Okay, we're going to take these outside. I'm going to take these all off my arm and put all of the shades I have on here just so we can have a little bit of a parade. So I'm going to read those to you. But first, let me say, if you have not subscribed to this channel, we do a lot of hard work around here. And you know I love this community. So make sure that you do, even if YouTube recommends my videos to you. It's really helpful if you can actually click that subscribe button. It's super helpful. All right, let's talk about what shades we've got. Let's take my arm outside into the warm California sunshine. Here we go. Ready? Left to right. We have Valentino, Very Valentino in LN4. Huda Glowish in shade 03 Light. NARS Light Reflecting Brightener in Goldeneye. Glossier Stretch Balm Concealer in Light 2. Surratt Beauty Dewdrop Concealer in shade 4. And shade 3 and 4, I'm sorry. Gucci Concealer in 24N and 25N. Followed by Tower 28 in 3.0 and 6.0. Natasha Denona Hy-Glam in N7 and N8. Makeup by Mario in 200 and 240. Tarte Shape Tape Radiant in 29 and 22, so actually 22 and 29, I should say. The Makeup Forever HD Skin Smooth in 2.1Y. Haus Labs Triclone Skin in 20LM and 21LM. And the IT Bye Bye Dark Spot Serum Concealer in LN22. Did that prove anything to you? No, but it's kind of fun to see all the concealer shades that I thought would work for my face. And frankly, they kind of all do that. Glossier is the worst. And that is also from the very sheerest, the sheer ones are more sheer than even the Armani Power Fabric. They're not really concealers. They'll cover up maybe an orange or green, but they're not going to do too much. And the potted ones, you know, they're a little bit of a pain. But once we get to those stick concealers, I mean, they're a pain in my opinion. You're welcome to disagree. Once we get to those stick concealers, they're all medium coverage, and I went from the thinnest formulas to the thickest formulas, but even the thickest here are really nice and spreadable, I'm happy to say. Gone are the days of cakey concealers. So let's give some awards here, shall we? First of all, best value for money. You are looking to save some money, but you want a good concealer. Best value for money is definitely Tower 28. It is $22. It will cover whatever you want. It's nice and smooth. It lasts all day. That is the best one. Creamy. You got dry under eyes and you need creamy concealers. The two best for your buck are the Natasha and the Tarte. Just remember, when you get the Tarte, make sure that is the Tarte Radiant, not creamy and not original. Kind of confusing, but these two are, in my opinion, the creamiest. You're wondering maybe if I've left out Charlotte Tilbury. She has that really nice, beautiful concealer. That was before 6 months. I really tried to keep it to 6 months. All right, driest. Now you're going to go, why would I want a dry concealer, Rebecca? You might. You know, you want something really paper thin and dry that doesn't add, that doesn't move if you have a greasy skin. The two driest, in my opinion, are right next to each other here. They're also very thin. Surratt and Gucci. Surratt and Gucci are our two kind of driest. That doesn't mean they dry anything out. Doesn't mean they cake or flake, but they're just not kind of a wet feel to them. Best for coverage. You really have some dark pits of despair. You really have a blemish. You really need that thing covered. In my opinion, this is my opinion. You are welcome to disagree. In my opinion, those two are going to be Haus Labs and Mario. I love them both, Haus Labs and Mario. Those cover the best to my way of thinking, but you can tell me if you disagree. Smoothest. The smoothest, you're barely going to see them. It's like you didn't put anything down, are the Gucci. The Glossier, even though I'm not a huge fan of it, is very smooth. The Surratt and the NARS. Those are going to really leave no trace that you have built up any sort of a concealer. I think they're great for that. The most standard and I think boring, I think you guys know this and I hate to say it, but it's true. I am not a huge fan of the of the Makeup Forever. Some people love it. And the IT Cosmetics. I just forgot about them in a sea of other concealers, but you are welcome to tell me if you feel that I'm wrong. Overall, best over a color corrector, I think I pretty much already told you, is Glowish. Let's do worst and best on here. I wonder if you can guess. The worst The worst is Valentino. It is so flowery. It covers nothing. It probably won't even cover your color corrector. I dislike this one a lot. And my absolute favorite on this table for my dark pits of despair, for my blemishes, for my redness around my nose, hands down, no competition for me, is Haus Labs. And I love the kind of apricot peachy shade I got for around my eyes because it also acts as a color corrector. I have sped through that. I sped through it. I'm not even sure that the rainbow on my arm was helpful, albeit it might be interesting. What do you need to know? What do you love that's a concealer? I don't have older ones on here because we'd be here forever. What do you need compared? What do you need to know? Let me help you. I'm happy to do it. That is why I'm here. That is why I have been knee deep in concealers all morning, looking through all of these, ready to make this video. Let me know what you need to know. Let me know where this video helped you and what questions that you didn't get answered. That's what our comment section is for. That's what makes us a community. Don't forget to like, don't forget to share and sub. And I can't wait to see all of you in the next video. Bye-bye.